Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Open Table Adventures. As always, I am Dan the Baker. Today, I am here with Table Talks, our little interview series where we talk to tabletop RPG creators from all across the space, get to know them a little better. Today, I have with me my friend Rowan. How are you doing, Rowan?
I'm doing so good, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy you're here. To start off, I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, just, like why are you here on this planet?
Why, honestly, a big existential question that might take longer than the interview has time for, but currently in this moment in time, the reason I am on this podcast is because I am a tabletop role-playing game and actual play journalist. My coverage that I have done recently is covering everything from Dimension 20 to like more niche actual plays like Dead Ghost Productions Replay or my first Dungeons Yuzeba season. Really anything and everything that's kind of pushing forward the new developing medium of actual play. And I just love tabletop games so much. I think they're really cool.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited. My first question for you, just to get right into it, is did you frequent fraternity parties when you attended Wagner University before transferring?
Yes, I was in a fraternity. I was in a co-ed fraternity that no
Kappa?
longer exists called Kappa Sigma
Yeah.
Alpha. Yes.
The reason I know that is they're in like, I think it was like 2018, 2019. You went to the same parties that my boyfriend did when he went to Wagner.
Who's your boyfriend?
His name is Drew Matthews.
God, what? That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in a co-ed fraternity called Kappa Sigma Alpha that no longer exists. Drew is amazing theatrical performer, killing it, great.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I was telling him that I was doing this interview, and he was like, "Wait, I think I know them. Like, I think they went to Wagner, and we like went to parties together, and like did shots together." I'm like, I'm absolutely bringing
Absolutely
that
we did.
up.
Oh, 100%. That is so crazy, especially because for everyone who is listening who does not know what Wagner College is, it is the most niche, weird facade of a liberal arts college on Staten Island in New York. Potentially the worst place on earth, maybe, but meet some really great people there.
Yeah. So I just had to start with that little tidbit.
You rocked me. You immediately got me.
Perfect.
I'm here. I'm in it.
That was my goal. That was my goal. Great, great, great. What did you go to Wagner for? Like, what was your major?
Yeah, so I went to Wagner originally for music education, and then my advisor for music education, who taught at both Wagner and Juilliard, went, "You don't want to be a teacher. You don't want to do this," with just the most like soulless, dead eyes. And I went, "Oh, okay. I guess I don't want to be a teacher," which is great from an academic advisor.
Of course.
Everything you want. So then I switched over into film before moving into creative writing. And then getting kicked out of Wagner College, actually.
Oh, you got okay.
I got
Drew said you
kicked out.
transferred. I didn't realize that you got kicked out. I'm so sorry.
No, it's completely okay. It's something actually very open about. I got kicked out for allegedly distributing plants at Wagner
Of course.
College.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important actually to kind of be like, there's a lot of privilege in the fact that I got kicked out of a school and was able to transfer to another one and go to a different school and afford like all of that. But also the fact that like, I don't know, I consider myself a pretty good person. I do a lot of really good work in the community and just I try to be decent. And so anyone who has gotten kicked out of school, fuck them. They're like, you're better than that. And education and the way that you have interacted with an institution does not affect the kind of person that you are.
Exactly. It's actually funny also because I also was a music education major when I was in school. I then also
Love that.
switched out of music education, and I still stayed with music, but then I minored in creative writing.
And that's how you get to TTRPGs, actually. It's a
Yeah,
direct pathway. It's a pipeline, I would
it
say.
is. Yeah, but then I dropped out and went to culinary school, so that's where we divulged. That's where we departed. Um,
Exactly. But then otherwise you wouldn't be Dan the Baker, you know? Come on.
exactly. Yeah. Um, I would love to know how did that pipeline go? How did you get into the whole TTRPG space and I guess reporting in the TTRPG space?
So I've had the weirdest journey possible.
Mhm.
I was a stand-up comedian for a couple of years, and through doing stand-up comedy, gained a little bit of a following on TikTok. And then from that, started doing comedy journalism, where I would write articles about comedians that I worked with, shows, kind of somewhat SEO stuff of like how to like deal with hecklers and kind of
Mhm.
moving through that. And then I started writing for this publication called Trip Sitter. I wrote some articles for Autostraddle about being a trans comedian, and I had a couple articles come out interviewing trans comedians about the experience of doing stand-up and being trans. You can find those at my link tree. And then I started writing for this publication called Trip Sitter, which is a psychedelic publication. And with them, I wrote about the intersection of gender and psychedelics, and went on a real deep dive about ADHD medication, and people saying that their ADHD medication was no longer as effective as it was because Vyvanse was losing patent exclusivity. So did a whole investigation there, kind of went Beautiful Mind style, like down the rabbit hole of pharmaceuticals. And then Dungeons and Drag Queens came out, Dimension 20's season with the drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. And I was in a real deep pit, watched that, and went, oh, this is really magical. Like, this reminds me why life is worth living, because, oh boy, is it so nice to just see people, like, that magic of watching someone learn why TTRPGs are so special, and, like, seeing that happen in real time was really important to me. And I was following the work of Dr. M. Friedman, who does some really incredible stuff in the space. And she was the first one who I saw the writing that she had done about like Critical Role and other actual aspects of actual play, and was like, oh wait, people do this seriously? Like people can really like write about this and it will get published somewhere? That is still somewhat yet to be seen. But yeah, so that's kind of how I took the long path towards that. I have had a lot of other branches in my life, but the direct journalistic path came from stand-up comedy, definitely.
Okay, so yeah, you truly pinballed your way to be exactly where you are right here today, which is crazy. That's just how it is sometimes, yeah.
I think especially now in this world that we live in, like the traditional paths that used to exist just don't exist anymore, and like I often describe it as climbing up a ladder that is breaking as you climb it.
Yeah. It's climbing a ladder. Yeah, it's climbing a ladder that's turning into a fireman's pole while you're climbing. That turns into a beanstalk. That turns into like an escalator. Like it's a journey that you literally like. It's so hard to figure out what's going on.
Literally, and you can never predict it, and everything does kind of tie together eventually. I also founded a nonprofit called Write Hive, which does yearly conventions, like free virtual conventions for literary professionals like writers, editors, agents, stuff like that. So if anyone listening wants to become a novelist or a short story writer or an editor, I was also a developmental editor for books for a couple of years. So you can go find those resources because they do some incredible work, despite the fact that I left like 2 years after because volunteer-based and obviously one can only do so much unpaid labor.
Yeah. I would love to know also about outside of like the reporting aspect of it. How did you start in just like in TTRPGs in general?
Yeah, so I was always very ashamed of loving TTRPGs. I grew up on Long Island, and that is
Filled with shame.
Filled with shame, both Italian Catholic shame and Jewish shame. I got both of them just in one person, and so I didn't feel able to talk about it, but I was watching Critical Role for a little bit, and then actually I did theater in high school and had a cast party after one of those games. I was stoned out of my mind, and there was someone next to me who was talking about Critical Role to their friend, and I went, D&D? And then I just started listening to their conversation, and they were like telling me about Critical Role, and then I got really, really into it, and then after I got kicked out of college, actually, running a game of D&D, I decided I wanted to do it for the first time. I listened to this podcast called, DM Nastics, I think, Dungeon Master's Block, and they did a lot of really interesting stuff about, like, how to run your games and things like that. It was the first time I seriously, like, intook the concept of running a game as something that could be honed and worked at, and, like, possible. And so
like
I ran a game.
Form.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh shit, like I could tell stories that like I care about with people that I love. And so I did that, ran a game for a little bit, and kind of ever since then have off and on just been pretty much the forever GM for the most part. But I have some friends who are professional game masters, so every once in a while I get to play with them when I go back home to Long Island. When they're running their board game cafe games, I just pop in for a session and go, all right, let's RP a little bit.
Great. Oh, that's so cool. But yeah, so you, wow, my train of thought just went out the window. I'm so sorry.
No, it's completely, trust me, I understand. I'm very rarely on this side of the interview, so.
Yeah, we're filming on a Friday. It's, it's a nice day outside. It's, it's like unseasonably warm in New York.
And the fact that it's been raining every weekend for like 8 weeks, the first time it's not.
Wild. But yeah, so you do more like GMing than being a player, like I guess in long form. Yeah. What games do you normally like GM? Like, are you more doing D&D, or what other TTRPGs are you getting into?
So 5e is definitely the one that I have the most experience running, but I'm actually running a game for all of my friends, like my roommates and some of our like close friends, and none of them except for my boyfriend have ever, none of them except for my boyfriend have ever played a TTRPG before, and they all were really, really excited and wanted to do it because I had like brainwashed all of them into watching Dropout with me. And so we started playing, or we were about to play, and I was like, I actually don't want to spend 5-6 hours making characters with you and figuring this math out. So I started a game of Kids on Bikes with them, and that has been really, really good because the way Kids on Bikes is set up, like obviously it's very much you really get a lot of player buy-in in building the world from the get-go, and that was really what they were looking for. So I really like Kids on Bikes and want to play more, but God, it's so hard to get just one game organized.
We're doing a Kids on Bikes game for our holiday special. So I started rereading the book, and I was like, this is really fun. I should do this more. I should play this game more. I'm excited to play that.
Fun.
It's so fun. I think just the system with like the exploding dice is so interesting, and so like, because the first time I heard about it was with, actually, speaking of Dimension 20, Kids on Brooms with Misfits and Magic, and I was like, hold on, excuse me.
We can take the transphobic wizard story and make it our own. We can do that.
Well. So that's exciting. I would also, now going back onto the Dimension 20 train, you got a chance to interview, in regards to Dungeons and Drag Queens, interview Brennan Lee Mulligan. How did that kind of come to fruition? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so actually for Dungeons and Drag Queens, I was supposed to interview Jujubee and Monet Exchange, but the day the interview was supposed to happen was the day that the SAG strike started, and so they were like, hey, we can't do this interview anymore, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then by the time Mentopolis had came out, that's when I got to interview Brennan, which was really, really exciting. He was definitely the highest profile person I'd ever interviewed. I pitched a piece about Mentopolis, and like, I also am trying to like get more into the world of actual play criticism and using that to like not validate the medium, but give it some critical engagement so people kind of outside the world of actual play can see it as a medium just like television or film in its own right. And so I got to speak with Brennan about this idea of how Mentopolis and the text that's referencing Metropolis, the Fritz Lang film from the 20s, huge German expressionist film, very cool labor conversations happening in there and class critique happening in that film. And so I got to speak with Brennan about that and kind of what TTRPGs are in the context of organizing and political labor, and why TTRPGs as a community building exercise are so radical in that way. It was very much me going, hey Charlie, I have this idea. Charlie Hall, the editor, the tabletop editor for Polygon, me being like, hey Charlie, I have this idea for a piece. Do you wanna do it? And he was like, yeah, that seems interesting. Do you want to do an interview with Brennan? I was like, that's an option.
Lee Mulligan, yeah.
Mr. Lee Mulligan, yes, of course I will. And yeah, so I just got to talk to him. He is as lovely as you would expect him to be. That was truly an incredible conversation. He is such a brilliant mind, and really, it's a very inspirational thing to realize, like, oh, someone who is so talented and someone who is so prominent within the public sphere, specifically within our industry, is as progressive and is as inclusive and is as radical as you would hope he would be. And seeing that kind of thought brought to a silly little game that we all play is very nice to see.
Yeah. I love the idea, as you were talking about, of like kind of bringing more, I guess, traditional criticism into the world of actual play, because it is still such a fringe niche thing. Like, Critical Role gets millions upon millions of views, but it's still seen as this, it's just this like nerdy little YouTube show. Like, it's not like, even though it is an industry, like, it's huge.
Literally.
Like Critical Role is a corporation. Like, it's big. Like, yeah.
And they manage to trick, like, they don't trick, they're not doing this intentionally, but like journalists outside of actual play and tabletop games, like there was an article about them like doing the Webley Stadium or the Webley Arena show that had like 15,000 people at it. They were like, how 8 nerds around a table came to fill the stadium, and I'm like, you're really underselling them.
Yeah, like they've been doing this for years. Like, it's been
almost a decade.
Yeah, like they've built this up. Like, it's so do you see like the art form of actual play like becoming more mainstream? Like, do you see that happening down the line?
I fully do, actually. I think it will never be as popular as television or film as a medium, but I think it will get to exist alongside it at some point in the future. I recently wrote that article for Polygon about actual play going Hollywood, and what the D&D Adventures show is going to be doing. Encounter Party, with the executive producers Ned Donovan and Brian David Judkins, some really, really cool people running that show, trying to make the art form more accessible, because like I said in the article, very much these points of like barriers to entry, because no one has the time to sit down and watch like a 4-hour episode every week. Like, that's just not feasible for a lot of people. So I think as the art form continues to transform and parts of it become more accessible to the mainstream, we'll see that it will get bigger, because it kind of already is. Like, we're seeing with Dimension 20 specifically kind of spearheading this, where like Gen Z specifically is latching onto it, and they get millions and millions of views. We don't have like the dropout view numbers, but you can see the TikTok clips. And so I really do think that as more people who are making actual play realize that they're not just friends sitting around a table playing a game, but they are artists making art, that shift, and like not everything's gonna look the same, obviously. Like, there's going to be subgenres upon subgenres of actual play. We'll have like art film actual plays, we'll have like short film actual plays, we'll have literary action adventure, we'll have all these different genres of actual play. And yeah, I think people are gonna really get on board as they because loneliness is such a big thing in this world right now. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people seeking that community, and actual play, both as like a medium with a community, and then like making the community, or making the medium itself, the production of it, is such a community-oriented endeavor. So I do think it will get more popular as more people know it exists.
Yeah. I was talking with a friend a couple weeks ago, and we were almost comparing it to esports. How, like, you know, like, not even, like, you know, 15, 20 years ago, like, there was esports. Like, there were, like, I don't think it was referred to as esports. Like, it was referred to as other things. And it was seen as this subculture, as this thing so far away from the mainstream. And, like, you know, now they show, like, esport things on ESPN. Like, it's literally, like, it's not, like, it's still kind of, it is below, like, it still seems like esports, what? By, like, you know, the mainstream, but it, like, has that, you know, foothold in traditional media.
Yeah, and then, like, you start to see publications like Collider and Vulture and Variety writing about Dropout and Dimension 20, and you get, like, the Hollywood Reporter reporting on Critical Role's new Red Nose Day thing that they're going to be doing with Tony Hale and, like, real celebrities.
Yeah.
So it is just a slow encroachment, I think. But, and I really do think, like, my position as a journalist within the world of being like, hey, here's why people should care about it. I would love to see more people engaging in this kind of criticism and journalism covering this work, because God, I'm only one person and there are people doing this, but oh boy, the more attention all actual play gets, the better off we're all gonna be.
Yeah. Do you see, I would love to hear your opinion, like, do you see if, when, you know, actual play becomes more engrossed in traditional media and more, like, mainstream, do you see there, like, how it changing? Like, how the media is made? How do you see that changing at all?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I do think it will. I think there will always be the traditional live streams. I think there will always be that core of actual play that is just capturing the experience of being at a table with your friends, because there's nothing really like it, and people go to actual play for that a lot.
Yeah.
But I think as we continue, like I said, with the subgenreification, I suppose, like, we'll get all these different stylistic things. We can see this happening a lot already in, like, audio actual play. Like I mentioned, My First Dungeon and Dead Ghost Productions, they do highly edited, highly stylized productions that live more in the podcast world. But then we already see, like, now we're getting the highly edited Encounter Party thing that's going to be 48-minute long episodes. And I think that form is going to shift, like, from the production end, as it becomes more mainstream and becomes more of a sustainable thing to do, because I think that's really the core of it. Like, making sure the people making actual plays aren't getting, like, uber famous and super rich, but just can make a living doing this and can like have this as their day job, as opposed to having this and their day job. I think, like, delegation of responsibilities on the production end, so that way the performers aren't also the executive producers, aren't also the marketers, aren't also, like, wearing all of these different hats. I think that production side will go into it, and I think we're going to see a rise in studio productions a lot more, because I think once more in studio productions rather than, like, recording over an online forum in some way and having everyone's little box. I think that really rose out of the pandemic and became very normalized in that way. But I think a lot of people are turned off by that way. I think a lot of people are triggered by Zoom calls. And so very genuinely, I think it will be a lot easier for people to accept the medium as authentic and genuine, which is, like, classist and weird in a lot of different ways, and it has a lot of barriers to entry in its own way. But I think moving in that direction with more in-studio productions will gain its credibility in a lot of ways. And I also think there are productions like Goodia, which is Nameless Domain's production. They played Bluebeard's Bride, a really wonderful South Asian perspective on the fairy tale and the game itself. Highly recommend everyone here go check it out. That is really interesting in the way that it's using online play and how it's using that overlay in the background to manipulate and heighten and enhance the story being told. So we're going to have those considerations come more into play as actual play becomes to be taken more seriously as an artistic medium.
Cool. Yeah. I'm very excited to see just within even the next like 2 to 3 years, and then like 5, 10 years down the line, how it's all going to shift and change. I just hope because I feel like at the core of actual play, there's still just this feeling of, you know, playing games with your friends in your mom's basement with Kool-Aid and popcorn. I hope we keep that. I want the production value to get bigger, of course, but I want the heart of it to stay the same, you know?
Yeah, that communal aspect, absolutely. Because
Yeah.
it's the team at the All Night at Queen's Court Games, who does the All Night Society, a bunch of other different games. They have this phrase that I really, really enjoy. I just put out an article interviewing them. They have this phrase: "Take yourself professionally, but not seriously,"
Hmm.
and I love that.
That's great. Yeah.
You're doing a job, you're making art. Take yourself professionally in that way, but we're still playing a game. Like, don't be so serious
Yeah.
about it.
I always say, like, it's at the end of the day, we're a bunch of adults around a table playing make believe. Like, like, that's not to say it's not, like, it's not professional, but it doesn't got to be serious. Like, you're having fun. Like, it's a game. Uh,
Exactly. And we live in like capitalism. We live under these
hmm.
systems where like that is not encouraged and that is not like a good thing. And
Hmm.
so being able to like bring that into the space of like we're doing something very radical here in
Yeah.
just holding space to have joy and have fun with each other, but also making sure that as you're making an actual play that the business part of it doesn't overtake the friendship and like make everyone hate each other, because
Yeah.
that is a story as old as time as well. Like once people become a business,
Hmm.
friendships stop being important.
Yeah. It's like the Beatles.
Yes, I would love to see a Beatles actual play. I think
Okay.
that
Um, I have one last question for you. That's absolutely no segue into this. I would love to know you personally in your games. What kind of stories do you like to tell? Like, what's your storytelling style?
Ooh, great question. The stories that I love to tell are I love making the players at my table feel like they can change the world.
Mhm.
I love empowering that sense that not all is lost and that not everything is hopeless. Like, even in the face of empire, even in the face of dystopia, even in the face of like the world is ending and everything is terrible and
Mhm.
all these people in power and this government are conspiring against you and trying to make everything even more awful, you can do something about it. Like, if you decide you want to, making choices as a collective for the greater good and empowering the people around you to feel like they can also make that change, those are the type of stories that I really like to tell.
That's so cool. That's definitely, yeah, it's a story that begs to be told in just today's world for sure. And I'm sure your
Yeah.
players appreciate that, getting that catharsis. Um, Great. I think now that means it is time for us to move on to the game portion of our interview. If you're ready for that. Um,
Absolutely. Always love a game.
yeah. Today I have a game for you. I'm calling Written in the Stars. Uh,
Ooh.
I have one, two, three, four reviews of TTRPGs. These are popular TTRPGs. I didn't find like random, obscure little games. These are popular TTRPGs that I'm sure you've heard of or played. Um, I'm going to read you these reviews, and I would like for you to guess what they are.
I love this.
How scale of 1 to 5? How confident are you? 1 to 5 stars.
Um, 1 to 5 stars. My confidence, I am notoriously underestimating myself, so I'm at a 2, I think. But we'll find
Okay.
out.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, let's get started. And if you want to interrupt me, if you're like, oh, I know it, just go ahead and interrupt me because they're not that long. They're like a little bit of a paragraph, but
If something calls to me and I'm like, I got it.
Yeah, if the spirits move you. All right. Review number 1. It doesn't take long for this game's dark and intriguing detective story to rapidly spiral down the well of occult madness. The story itself can be confusing in spots. Oh, do you got it?
I think Call of Cthulhu?
It is Call of Cthulhu. That was
Okay.
on IGN by DM Schmeier, I want to say. That's how that's pronounced.
I don't know them personally, but I'll say you got it right. Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, that's correct. Call of Cthulhu. I was like, this is an easy one. I think as soon as you say occult madness, it's like, yeah. Great. So I feel like you're bumping up to a 3-star. You're not that. Yeah.
I'm here now. Yeah.
Cool. Review number 2. The player's handbook featured a mounted warrior with impractical wings on his helmet charging through a misty cleft in a cliff wall. Really not all that inspiring compared to the original player's handbook. Slicker and more expensive? Yes. Better? Not in my opinion. Inside the book was 3 columns of black text with blue headings. The artwork, instead of the inspiring line drawings of the first edition, were largely blue bits of clip art, often with Celtic knotwork. Scathing.
Scathing. Oh man, is this Ironsworn?
It is not.
What is it?
This is 2nd edition AD&D.
I was gonna say D&D, but I was like, oh no, that's too easy.
So that's why I went 2nd edition. I was like, let's go back. That was on RPG Geek by Vincent Darlage.
I love that. Okay, all right, I'll doubt
it was
myself.
A scathing review. Like that was like, he hated that.
Second edition, like
it's cool. This is I feel like you're gonna get this one for sure. This is quote number 3. This game is a small project, but not lacking in ambition. The 76-page book sets you down as characters in an 80s-style mystery, but leaves room for you to do more. While it discusses a few basic tropes that it suggests you make use of, you can play as children, teenagers, or adults. Moreover, the game asks you to spend some time with your players working on a mutual setting, implying you can take it in whatever direction you all feel most comfortable exploring.
I think this one might be Kids on Bikes.
It's absolutely Kids on Bikes. I was like, oh, you're gonna get this immediately. Like we just talked about this. I'm pretty. You said it.
I was trying to let you read it out more, trying to hear if there are any more spicy takes in these reviews.
Those Kids on Bikes is on Gaming Trend by John Farrell. So you're 2 for 3 right now. I can give you a half a point because you thought D&D. You thought it.
I was like, I did think it, but don't want any mercy points here. But I will take it anyway.
Yeah. You don't want it, but you will accept it, of course. Cool. This is our last review. One of the game's biggest draws is undoubtedly its retro-futuristic setting. Here, it gleefully embraces every possible genre cliché you could ever think of, from the sprawling megacorps and the crushing inequality they enforce between the haves and the have-nots. Do you got it?
Is this Shadowrun?
It is not.
Is it Cyberpunk? Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. Enforced between the haves and have-nots, through to the VR-style hacking minigames and a lingering belief that mirrored shades will always be the height of cool.
Cyberpunk Red or Cyberpunk 27?
It's Cyberpunk Red, yeah.
Yes.
That was on Dicebreaker by Richard Jansen Parks.
Love that.
Yeah. That was 3 out of 4, 3.5 out of 4. That was good. Yeah. I had full confidence. Guess. Yeah, I had full confidence in you the whole time.
I appreciate the confidence. It means the world.
It was so hard finding ones that were like, don't explicitly say, like, especially with the cyberpunk ones, it's like, oh, the cyberpunk genre is up in front. And like, no, I was like, I need you to be more vague.
Yeah,
Um,
when I heard Megacorp, I was like,
mhm,
okay. But the retro futuristic was the only thing that got me hanging on it. I really, really love Shadowrun, but definitely not
mhm.
vintage. Definitely not
Yeah.
retro.
I can see where you could get Shadowrun if you took out the retro part. Thank you so much for playing. Oh, that was so much fun.
Great
Um,
game.
Thank you. Uh, I would love to hear at the end of our interview. I would love for you to tell us about any big upcoming projects you have that you can talk about that you want people to check out.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, something I'm going to be launching pretty soon is I am going to be starting a Patreon or a Ko-fi or some kind of crowdfunding thing because, as I mentioned earlier, getting people to pay for actual play reviews is difficult. But I still want to do as much as I can to kind of uplift the community. And so, finding a way to ethically do crowdsourced journalism is something I'm really trying to figure out and look into. Basically, my disclaimer is going to be if you back my crowdfunding journalism, that does not guarantee you coverage. And if I do cover you, that does not guarantee you positive coverage.
Mhm.
It is just going to be, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and would love if the community could help support that because, oh boy, is digital media unforgiving.
Yeah, very. Great. Sounds super cool and interesting. Can't wait to check it out.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get it set up soon, so I will have a link for you, hopefully, by the time
mhm.
this goes out.
Yeah, definitely send it our way. We will put it in the description down below. Um, we also love to give our guests a chance to just shed a spotlight on something in the TTRPG community that they want everyone to check out. What would you like to shed a spotlight on?
Yeah, I've been mentioning a lot of shows throughout.
Hmm.
Definitely go check all of the ones that I've mentioned out. This is probably going to go out after this is over, but Esther Wallace, she is doing a Games for Gaza bundle where you can buy the games for $10, and there are 250 of them, and all of it goes to humanitarian aid for people in Palestine currently suffering under an oppressive regime. Another thing that might still, if this does come out after that, another thing that I think would be really cool to check out um, would be Transplanar. Transplanar is a anti-orientalist, anti-colonial POC trans-led game RPG series. They're wrapping up their first arc of their Chaos Protocol, and it is run by the incredible Connie Chang. They do some incredible work, and if you are a queer person and love angsty queer people doing angsty queer people things, you should go check out Transplanar.
Connie Chang is one of the best storytellers, I think, in like actual play right now. Like incomparable, so good. Um,
So good.
mhm,
I could literally shout out so many actual plays. Just
mhm.
keep watching my coverage because I only cover things that I think are worth giving attention to because there are hundreds upon hundreds of actual plays, and
Mhm.
God, do I not have time to watch all of them.
Great.
Other people, that's why you should become actual play journalists. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for shining a spotlight on the community. This has been so fun, Rowan. Thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with me. I hope everyone else had such a good time listening to us. Where across the internet can people find you?
Uh, you can find me on any platform at rowanzeoli. It's real beneficial being the only person with my name. So you can find me on the internet at rowanzeoli on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Discord, I guess. I don't know if you want to friend me on Discord, go for it. But yeah, you can find me all there. I have a link tree in my bio and all these places where you can find my articles, donate to the Ko-fi, and listen to the various podcasts that I'm on because I host two. I host one called Off Screen where I interview GMs about the difference between the craft of running an actual play versus the craft of running a home game, and I host a podcast with Trip Sitter where I talk to a bunch of really weird people in the psychedelic field who are at the top of their industries doing crazy research. Like I talked to this one guy called Zeus Tapato who is doing the only research in the world about the intersection of VR and psychedelics. So like real wild stuff going on there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we'll have all those links down in the description below for you guys to go and check out. And thank you everyone for coming and watching our table talk. As always, I'm Dan the Baker. You can find me at Dan_the_Baker on TikTok, Twitter, all over the place, wherever I want you to find me. And even some places I don't want you to find me. Thank you so much for watching Open Table Adventures. Make sure you check out all of the other great things we have coming your way. We have Park Strangers, our Monster of the Week series, Neptune's Revenge, our Call of Cthulhu series, our Halloween one-shot, I'm sure has been out for, by the time this has come out. Our holiday one-shot is coming out soon. We have more interviews. We have recipe videos coming out. Just check it all out. Make sure you subscribe. And you are always welcome to pull up a seat. Bye-bye.